Management Review Committee meeting. Mrs. Forsyth, are the guests now in the meeting?
Yes, convener, we have the applicant and the applicant's agent.
That's grand, thanks very much. Okay, we'll just start in the normal way. Any apologies or substitutions?
Yes, convener, an apology from Councillor Durno with Councillor Beattie substituting. And just for clarification, Councillor Beattie substituted for Councillor Durno at the first meeting when this item was considered. So he will be the substitute going through the process until it's concluded. Right,
thank you. That's clear. Secondly, any declarations of interest or declarations for transparency? Councillor Braze, I see you've got a hand up.
Yes, I do know family, but not to an extent that would give a member of the public any reason to think I might be swayed in my decision on this. So I'm quite happy that I don't need to make a declaration of interest. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Doran?
Yeah, I've raised this before just as a statement of transparency, that I have been contacted by people who were not in support of this application, but I've never offered any opinion of how I sit on this. And I was contacted before and after the election as well. I've shared those details. Oh, sorry, there's a bit of an echo going on somewhere. I don't know if everyone else can hear that. I have shared those emails, but I've never offered any opinion on this application.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fairweather, you're muted, David.
Apologies. Thanks, convener. Yeah, just for transparency, before the last recess, I was contacted by the applicant regarding the length of time. Right. This particular item was taking, but I just passed it to the officers, concerned, and made no comment.
Okay, thanks, David. That's grand. And Councillor Nicholl.
Convener, it's just a matter of transparency again. I do know of the family. We're not friends, relatives, or anything, so I will stay in the meeting, etc.
Okay, that's grand. Thank you. So that's all the declarations of interest or transparency. Okay, we'll move on to item 3, which is the land northeast of Duntroon House, Duntroon. That is report 36922. And if I could introduce Miss Leslie Tierney, who is our independent planning advisor. She works in the private sector in Aberdeenshire, and she has previously got significant experience in the local authority sector as a planner. So she has been brought in to provide us that independent advice, and I'll hand over to her now to go through the planning introduction.
Thank you, convener. Yes, I'm Leslie Tierney and I'm a chartered planning consultant and associate with McWilliam Lip Architects, and I'm present today as independent planning advisor to the committee. I can confirm that I visited the site and surroundings on the 24th of January, and I have had no previous involvement in the application, and I have no conflict of interest relative to the case applicant or any interested party. The review returns to Dmrc following deferral on 8th of November for a site visit, which I can confirm took place yesterday on the site. So, can I get the... Yes, so we should... We'll just go through some of the information about the site on some slides, which I think you've already seen, but we'll just run through them again. You see that? Okay, so the case before committee today, as you know, seeks review of refusal of planning permission, application reference 20/00830/FULL for erection of a crematorium building, associated parking, access, turning space, landscaping and boundary enclosures. This is the context plan. The application site is just short of 2 hectares, 1.99 hectares, on the southernmost part of an agricultural field located to the north of the C4 public road and around 300 metres northeast of Duntroon House. The larger field is contained by woodland and the public road with existing trees along the southern boundary of the road. And then a closer look at the site plan. The application site is bounded by a woodland area, Duntroon Hill to the west, a woodland strip to the east with an access track and 2 houses beyond. A third house further to the north is accessed from the same track. To the south is the public road with mature trees along its edge, and the balance of the agricultural field lies to the north against a woodland backdrop. So the building and external works plan. The building would be positioned to the southwest part of the site, orientated on an east-west axis with parking and circulation to the east of the building. Access would be taken from a new junction formed with the C4 public road to the south, leading to parking provision for 127 cars with 7 disabled spaces and space for coaches to wait, along with staff parking to the north. A planted garden and memorial garden is included to the front and south of the building, incorporating grassed areas, memorials and flower and shrub beds. The site boundary would be formed north by a post and wire fence, a new feature dry stone wall with posts and entrance gates formed at the southern boundary, and new tree and hedge planting across the site, particularly concentrated towards the southeast corner. And then these are some site sections, and these basically just show the context of the building on the site and the slope of the site. And then these are the proposed elevations and the ground floor plan. The crematorium would be a 544 square metre single-storey pitched roof building around 8 metres high. The entrance and reception hall to the front, east side, with the main hall directly behind, accommodating seating for 120 people. The cremator and servicing are to the rear, west, with the stack on the rear roof section terminating at around 9 metres from ground level. The offices and administrative areas are to the north and the public exit to the south. The building is described as reflecting a traditional simple agricultural form with natural slate roof and grey and timber-clad elevations. There's mitigation proposed on the surrounding network, including widening of the C4 along the site frontage, passing places on the C4 and U315, crematorium signage to direct traffic from the B978 Kellis Road, and improvements to visibility displays. So these are some photographs of the site just to run through, although as members will have viewed most of these, or all of them certainly, when we were on the site yesterday. This is the view of the site looking north from the public road, the front of the site. And then these ones here again from the public road along the south boundary, which is a view to the east and the west of the site. These are the junction locations, again, where we stopped and looked at in some detail yesterday. And then the first one here, junction 1, which is the C4 West Hall U315 junction, with the site to the north. And then looking from the same junction to the south. And then coming back, we'll then go to number 2, which is the C4 B978 junction with the view south towards Dundee. And then same junction to the north. And coming back here to the plan, we'll now go to number 3, junction 3, which is the junction of the U315 with B978. And again, the view south towards Dundee there. And then the view north towards Kellis. Then back to the plan, junction location 4, the C6 and C4 west towards Burnside of Duntroon, and then east towards the Pale site. What I'm going to do, convener, is just give a bit of a conclusion here. There are two reasons for refusal, which are both fundamentally concerning poor accessibility other than by private car, and these are discussed within the case officer's report of handling. Further letters of representation have been received since submission of the appeal, and the response to these by the appellant is contained within your papers. The appellant's notice of review and further submissions address these along with other benefits and material considerations. Members are advised today of a further consideration in this review relating to the publication of National Planning Framework 4. The Scottish Parliament voted on 11th of January to approve NPF 4, and the intention is that Scottish ministers will adopt and publish NPF 4 on the 13th of February. Until the 13th of February, NPF 4 is not part of the development plan, and the weight to it, or the weight to be given to it in decision making is a matter for the decision maker. For clarity, NPF 4 is not yet part of the development plan, but it is now a significant material consideration during this period. Its publication will also supersede Scottish planning policy and will have the effect that all strategic development plans and any supplementary guidance cease to have effect. Case officer report, notice of review and grounds of appeal and other information are detailed in the papers in front of members. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much for that. I did notice as we were going through the junctions that the numbering was slightly different from the numbering we were looking at on the site plan yesterday. I didn't personally find that confusing, but I guess if members at a point later want to refer to junctions, we'll have to be clear which one we're talking about. I'd like to pick up the issue about National Planning Framework 4, and Ms Tierney has flagged that up as perhaps a significant material consideration. And I would like to call for a 15-minute recess while the committee can get legal advice on that point. We are currently at just before 9:30. Can I suggest that we recess until 9:45? So if we could ask visitors to leave the meeting, and we will allow you back in after we've had the legal advice, which should be about 9:45. And can you ensure that the visitors have left the meeting, Mrs. Forsyth?
Yes, convener, that's no problem. If I could ask Mr. Batchelor, Mr. Freckwell, and I think maybe Elaine has already gone to leave the meeting. The live stream, please. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, members, and thank you. We're now back into open session. Ms. Tierney talks about MPF4. I see you've got your hand up, Councillor Doran. Can you make your point, please?
Yep, thank you. I just wanted to ask if we could have a little bit more information about the relevance of NPF4, if that could be answered. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Councillor Doran. I'm sure a number of elected members maybe are not fully up to speed on MPF4. So if I could ask Ms. Tierney to give us a brief outline of what it's all about.
Thank you, convener. So, obviously members will be aware of the hierarchy of planning policy within the planning system in Scotland, and there's been a significant amount of work in the preparation of the next national planning framework, which is fundamentally going to be the main planning policy for Scotland, and then the local plans will sit beneath that. So in terms of significance, it's certainly already a significant material consideration, and once it comes into force in the middle of February, will also be incredibly important as we move towards a new era, I think, in the planning system in Scotland, certainly. With relevance to this particular appeal, I would suggest there are a few policies which are relevant to the appeal, some perhaps more than others, bearing in mind the particular reasons for refusal. The main policies I would suggest are Policy 1, 13, 14 and 29. Policy 1 is a new kind of overarching policy which is fundamentally concerned with tackling the climate and nature crisis. This is kind of an overarching policy, and that states that when considering all development proposals, significant weight will be given to the global climate and nature crisis. And maybe just to follow on from that, when local authorities are preparing their next local development plans, their policies will have to reflect the overarching thrust of what is contained within MPF4. But that is quite an interesting, if you like, and new overarching policy in terms of climate change, I suppose. Policy 13 is on sustainable transport. It is perhaps the one that's most relevant to the reasons for refusal that you are reviewing. And that seeks to encourage, promote and facilitate developments that prioritise walking, wheeling, cycling and public transport for everyday travel and reduce the need to travel unsustainably. Now, there are clauses within that policy which are perhaps of relevance too. Clause D is about development proposals for significant travel generating uses. That those will not be supported in locations which would increase reliance on the public car, taking into account the specific characteristics of the area. Now, what I would say here is I don't think at any point has the proposal been described as a significant travel generating use. That's maybe just something to bear in mind. But clause F of that policy also speaks about smaller scale developments, where quite simply it states that it's important to monitor travel patterns resulting from the development, and they'll be supported where they're accompanied by a travel plan and any supporting planning conditions or obligations. Policy 14 simply concerns design, quality and place, which I'm sure you are all very aware of and take cognizance of in any case. And it's quite simply that proposals are designed to improve the quality of an area, whether in urban or rural areas, and regardless of scale, and where they are consistent with the 6 qualities of successful places, which to list them are that they are healthy, pleasant, connected, distinctive, sustainable and adaptable. And then finally, I would say probably policy 29 is on rural development, and where rural economic activity and diversification are encouraged, whilst ensuring the distinctive character of the rural area, function of small towns, natural assets and cultural heritage are safeguarded and enhanced. So that is, and there's a clause within that policy that speaks about proposals in rural areas being suitably scaled, sited and designed to be in keeping with the character of the area and in terms of their position within a rural location. So Chair, Convener, those would be the main highlights that I would suggest are relevant to the consideration of the appeal at this stage.
Okay, thanks very much indeed for that information. We've obviously, members, had the legal advice and we've had the explanation of what parts of MPF4 are considered relevant. So I'm now going to ask you a question. Do you have enough information to proceed with hearing the appeal? Councillor Fairweather, I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. I do believe we have more than enough information to go ahead with this today. So I would be putting forward that the meeting continues and that the decision is made today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Fairweather. Councillor Nicholl, I see you've got your hand up.
I've got to agree with Councillor Fairweather, and I was going over these NPF4 ones, and I think the plan covers all these points.
Okay, thank you. What are the views of the other members? Councillor Dorn?
Hi, yeah, I would like to ask that we request further information on this relating to particularly the MPF4 policies mentioned 1 and 13. But so yeah, I'd like to put that forward.
Okay, Councillor Brays.
Well, you know, this has dragged on for an awful long time, but I think it's very important that we do have all the information when we come to make a decision. This is a very contentious issue, and so I would support Councillor Dorn's view on this, and I think we do need that further information. And as short as possible, a delay till we get it.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Brays. Councillor Beattie.
Yeah, I would like to echo Councillor Don and Councillor Brays, particularly MPF4 policies 1, 13 and 29.
Okay, thank you. Just for formality, Mrs. Forsyth, can we go to a vote here? And I think we can say that Councillor Fairweather is proposing that we determine it today, seconded by Councillor Nicholl. And the counter view is from Councillor Don, seconded by Councillor Brays. If the members are agreed to, are happy with my summary of what we've said.
Yes, Convener, that's not a problem. So sorry, wait until I get this the right way around. The motion by Councillor Fairweather, seconded by Councillor Nicholl, is that no further information or further procedure is required and that the application for review be considered at this meeting. The amendment by Councillor Doran, seconded by Councillor Brays, is that further procedure is required by way of written submissions, inviting the Planning Authority to make a statement in relation to the effect of National Planning Framework 4, in particular policies 1, 13 and 29. Please vote motion or amendment. Convener?
Sorry,
sorry.
Could we please add to that with the, if it's okay with Councillor Dorn, that the timescale for this should be as short as practical?
I think Councillor Brays, we're just determining whether further procedure is required or not, so that discussion can happen with members once the vote's completed.
Okay.
Okay. Convener?
Amendment.
Councillor Nicholl?
Motion.
Councillor Brays?
Amendment.
Councillor Doran?
Amendment.
Councillor Beattie?
Amendment.
Councillor Fairweather?
Motion.
The amendment is carried by 4 votes to 2. Further information will be required.
Okay, thanks very much indeed, Mrs. Forsyth. So, yeah, like Councillor Fairweather and Councillor Nicholl, I am unhappy about the length of time this application has taken to be resolved. However, I think we know that MPF4 is a significant material consideration, and I think it would be remiss of us not to ask for additional information from both the council and the applicant in relation to MPF4. So what will happen is a note will be issued by the end of this week by Legal and Democratic Services to the applicant and to the planning service, and additional information will be requested over the next 14 days. So by the 17th of February, that is the deadline for additional information. So while we're having a delay, it is a relatively short delay given the timescale this application has been in the system. So apologies for that, but I think that is I'm comfortable that is the sound decision for us to make. I know it will be issued this week. Mrs. Forsyth, I see you've got your hand up.
Yes, sorry, convener. Just to clarify a point, I know that we're talking about submissions from the planning. In terms of Regulation 15, we're required to consider whom information is required from and the date. To clarify, are we asking for the submission from the planning authority and giving the applicant the opportunity to respond to that submission, rather than at the same time, effectively? And I think Ms. Magson is agreeing with me that we've given the requesting the information from the planning authority with the applicant to be given a few days at the end of that to respond.
So we're talking about 2 sequential 14-day periods.
That would be correct.
That sounds reasonable. Yes. Okay. So the planning authority, the planning staff have got to respond by the 17th, and we would give the applicant a further 14 days to respond to any comments from the planning service.
That's correct.
And you will put out a note explaining that to both parties effectively by the end of the week.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks very much indeed, elected members. Again, my apologies for the delay, but I think the MPF4 is a significant thing that has come into. We've got to take cognizance of it. Hopefully, we will. Hopefully, we will resume to discuss this as soon as possible. And thank you for your attention and attendance today, and wish you the best for the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, convener.
Thank you.
Thanks, convener.
Thanks, convener.
Thank you.